Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I want to talk to you about my plant graveyard. So plants that I've killed and plants that I've killed recently. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I actually only started getting into plants like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And before I really got into plants, every single plant that has ever entered my apartment or my house died. And I've killed some plants that people consider impossible to kill. So let's get into it. So I have my phone here with me because I have some notes on all of the different plants that I have killed. So I think the first one that we should talk about was when I got my first apartment ever. I was living in New York City, going to school, and this was my first big real apartment, so obviously I wanted to get some plants for it. And so I went to Home Depot and I got a lot of different succulents. And I had this huge west-facing window that had really good lighting. And I didn't really know much about lighting at the time, but now I would tell you that it was a huge west-facing window. It had very bright light throughout the entire day, and then sometimes in the afternoon it had direct lighting, but I didn't know any of that then. But what's actually really surprising is that I still don't know why these succulents die, even with all of my experience now. So I got a bunch of them. I actually still don't know what a lot of those succulents are called because I'm really not that into succulents anymore. But I had like maybe 4 or 5. I put them all on my windowsill and they all grew a lot. But the issue was that they all grew really elongated, which usually is a sign that they weren't getting enough light, but they were already on my west-facing window. So I'm still not really that sure of why that was happening, but what had happened and how they died is that I tried to fix that issue by cutting and propagating, and none of my propagations took, and so they all died. All of them. Every single one of them. And so, yeah. Now I have a few succulents and I put them very far away from me because I feel like succulents do better when they aren't fussed over. And I like to fuss over and touch a lot of my plants. Okay, so that was the first plant or group of plants that I killed. And then around that same time, before the whole succulent massacre happened, I decided that since my succulents are going so well, little did I know, that I was going to get a real houseplant. At the time, I was really obsessed with peace lilies. Honestly, now, I don't think peace lilies are even in like my top 10 favorite houseplants, but at the time I wanted a peace lily very badly. Very badly. I loved them. I don't know why. They're still beautiful. I think they're great. And there are definitely peace lilies that I want. This one actually needs a little bit of watering. You can see the leaves are dripping, but there are still definitely peace lilies I want, but there are also plants that I've discovered since then that I love a lot more. Anyways, so I wanted a peace lily really, really badly, so I went to Home Depot. And I lived in New York City, so that my Home Depot was about 10 blocks and a couple of avenues away. Walked to Home Depot, and I got myself my very first houseplant, a peace lily. I got it home, and I placed it bloop, on my windowsill. I don't know why, but I think that I just had this assumption that more light equals better for plants. Peace lilies do not enjoy direct lighting. So immediately within like the first week, half of the leaves got like scorched. So I finally realized and I moved it further away from the window, but I loved my peace lily at the time so much. So I was Googling about peace lily care and blah, blah, blah. And I read that peace lilies like to be watered well. What I thought that meant was that they like to be watered often with a lot of water. So, can you tell where this is going? Root rot. So quick. So much root rot. so quick. And I also had my peace lily in a cash po, I think at the time, with no drainage holes. So it was just sitting in a lot of wet soil. And peace lilies really like to be like moist and wet, so you could imagine how much water I have to have given that peace lily for it to have gotten root rot within I think 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, it was a lot. So I tried to go in for a rescue mission to save my peace lily. I got rid of all of the stems that are rotted, which left me about half the plant, and that half of the plant just didn't do so well after that. It died basically one leaf at a time. So yeah, funny enough, when I first started getting to house plants, my first plant this time go around was this peace lily, which, as you can see, is still very much so alive. I actually almost killed this peace lily. I put it in a planter that was too big for it, and the soil wasn't drying out, and I got really frustrated. I waited for over 2 weeks for the soil to dry out, and it never did, so I dug it up and put it into a plastic nursery pot, which is, and these clear ones, my favorite thing in the world. So good. I also realized when I started getting into plants that I am an overwaterer, so those clear nursery pots have been great for me. So the third plant I killed is actually a mystery plant because I actually don't know what it is. It was a gift from my mom. She visited me in New York. She saw that I was kind of getting into plants with my peace lily, and so she got this plant for me that she said was impossible to kill. I killed it. And I killed it doing the exact opposite of what had happened to my peace lily. So she put it, not me, she put it, my mom, into my kitchen that had no windows. And I don't know, I feel like I should have had enough common sense even then to understand that even if a plant is a low light plant, it probably needs more light than a windowless kitchen. But she put it in my kitchen. I don't know if she expected me to move in. That was a temporary situation, but I never moved it. So it definitely wasn't getting enough light. And also because I think I had kind of a little emotional attachment to it. I never even knew what the plant was called. I forgot to water it. Oops. Sorry, Mom. So I killed that plant very slowly, one leaf at a time, and eventually all of the leaves died, and I was too impatient to see if I could save the rest of the tree, so I just tossed it. Sorry, Mom. Okay, the next plant that I killed is this polka dot plant. So like, oh, what do you mean you killed it? I'm looking at a plant right now. So I actually had 2 of these that I bought at the same time as a pack from Costco, of all places. This peace lily also came from Costco from the same day. And I had 2, and I really liked them. But as soon as I got into my house, they started having this issue where you can kind of see here of the edge of the leaf getting really crispy. The edges of the leaves getting really crispy. And so I thought that meant that the plant was getting too much sunlight and it was getting scorched, so I moved it to an east-facing window, but it's kind of a shaded east-facing window, and the plant grew, but it grew kind of like this, where there's a lot of space in between each leaf, and it grew kind of elongated like this. Put my hand and see, maybe I'll focus and not my face. And so, and then it also started losing all of its variegation. If you look at some of these stems, some of the leaves in the bottom here barely have any variegation because it was in such a low light situation. And so I moved both of them, because I had 2. I moved both of them to various spots in my house to see what would do better. And the other one, before it even got a chance to see if the spot was happier, I overwatered it. So I watered it. I have them all in cash pose like this. I watered it, and then I forgot to come back to check to see if there was excess water in the bottom, and there was a lot of excess water. I came back about a day later, and it had looked completely dead, like completely dead. I was like, what happened? I checked, there was a lot of excess water sitting in the pot. I dumped it out, and then I waited for it to dry out, because sometimes with polka dot plants, they act really dramatic, and sometimes if you give them a chance, they'll come back. There was really only one salvageable stem, which I don't know which one it was, but what I ended up doing was taking it out of that pot and putting it into this pot. And then I kept having issues with leaves and stems dying. Still having that issue, because if you look here, I don't know if you can see that at all. I'm gonna put my hand in front of it, but that's a dead stem. I'm still kind of having issues with this plant, but it's doing better. Now it is pulled back from a south-facing window, which so you can see it's getting a lot of its variegation back, which is good. I'm still having crispy issues, which I think is a humidity issue. I do have it on a pebble tray, and I do mist it quite often, but my house is kind of dry, so this might need to be moved again. I also plan on chopping some of these stems to propagate, but I want to let it grow in a little bit before I do it, and also I don't necessarily want to propagate and cut off the only good pink part of the plant, so I want to wait a little bit. But yeah, and this was very recently. This was probably like a month and a half ago, so you know, you can grow a lot in a month and a half, because now I have calatheas that are happy in my house. I actually just bought a new polka dot plant that's white. I repotted it in my Repot With Me video, which should be up, I'll link it. But I bought a white polka dot plant because there's a planter I wanted, and I thought that plant looked perfect in that planter. I'm still nervous about it. TBD on the condition of this plant, but until it looks a little better, it's not gonna make a debut on my Instagram. Anyways, okay, the very last plant that I killed very recently, which I'm actually only going to take 50% of the blame for, is a Marble Queen pothos, the #1 beginner-friendly plant that I killed. So it came to me in this majestic 8-inch pot from Lowe's, and it came soaking wet. And at this point, I did know enough about plants that you don't water it when the soil is soaking wet. So I waited 2 weeks. It was still soaking wet, so I ended up repotting it. I repotted it, and it was also extremely root bound, so I put it into a 10-inch pot, which is a huge pot. And honestly, besides my monstera and my rubber tree, I don't really plan on ever putting another plant in a pot that big, because they're so annoying to water, they're so annoying to take care of, and the soil takes a million years to dry out. I digress. But so I repotted into a 10-inch pot, because you know that's 2 inches bigger than an 8-inch pot, and it was root bound. And what had happened was I had repotted it, I waited a couple days, and now that it was in dry soil, I thought that that was probably good enough and that I could water it. But what I didn't realize is that the potting mix I use, first of all, is not great quality potting mix, and also second, it is quite a moisture retentive potting mix. So I watered it probably 2 days after I repotted, and I immediately got root rot. Like within a week I had root rot, and I tried to save a lot of the trailing vines. Like I tried to save as big of a segment that I could and tried to keep a lot of the existing roots, but it was just like me cutting off the dead roots, letting it air dry for a little bit, plop it in water to try to get, you know, some new roots. And after like 2 weeks of doing that, I gave up and cut every single leaf individually to propagate. And I just propagated that in my Repot With Me video, so check it out. Now I have, I think, 2 plants that I've transferred, one into a 4-inch pot, one into a 6-inch pot, and then I also have a handful of propagations left that aren't quite ready to go into soil, but maybe soon. And that was the last plant that I've killed. Undoubtedly, I will kill more plants in the future, but you know, I'm taking time to learn about the individual plants that I care for. You know, this has a filtered water only tag on it, you know, doing things like that. So yeah, I hope that this helped you, even if it's just to see that I am a bad plant parent. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.